3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Non-issue, handled internally. I'm not talking about it. Now, what don't we understand about that? Do you understand what internally means? It's been handled internally. We're not talking about it. It's over with. Move on. Next question. Got nothing to say? Enjoy your day, fellas. We'll see you at Ivor Wynn Stadium.
Here we go. Welcome to the Handled Internally Blue Bombers podcast. I'm Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com, joined as always by the Chief Consigliere of the Blue Bombers, Darren Cameron, the Director of Senior and Public Relations and Media Relations and Community Relations. Well, we have a sponsor now. Bomber fans, PlayNow.com reminds you that when you bet on blue, there's only one legal online sports book in Manitoba. Only one that guarantees your winnings. Only one where the profits stay here to support your community. Play your Bombers at PlayNow.com, your hometown sports book. Enjoy responsibly. How about that? I read that without a error. First
Sounded like
down.
your nose is plugged, buddy.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Anyway, now we're finally through that.
Thank
Brady,
you.
how are you, man? Welcome.
Thanks for having me on. I've heard I've actually listened to some episodes in the past, and so I'm honored to be on. Honored.
Honored might be a stretch. We've been trying to do this since February, but shit. Considering I'm the head of PR here, it's pretty hard to nail you down somehow. I don't know how that works out, but
I got lots in the go,
Yeah,
especially in the off season. It's people would say off season we got a lot more time, but for me it seems like it gets busier.
yeah. Well, you do all these commercials and all this shit. You got so much going on, buddy.
Lots going on.
Yeah,
lots
going on.
the
It's
go,
better than
man.
the opposite.
You're right.
Better than the opposite.
That's
So,
right.
as I was telling you before we started, we kind of, this is kind of a free-flowing thing. We kind of just start from a guy's kind of starting point of his football career way back to whenever you started playing. So, maybe just take us back to those days. It was not that long ago.
Yeah, I guess
you wanna look at it that
I'm
way?
only 25.
Yeah, there you go.
Still young into my career, but I started playing when I was 13. And kind of how it started for me, I was grew up in a soccer family. I played soccer my entire life. My dad is from Brazil, so it was like in our blood to play soccer. I got two siblings, an older brother and a younger sister. We all played high-level soccer growing up. And, my dad didn't know much about football. My mom didn't know anything about football. And there's no way my mom was going to let me play football, right? All she knew that there's lots of contact in it. So kind of how it started was a soccer coach of mine growing up is the one who got me involved in football. He was coaching for the North Winnipeg Nomads at the time and also coaching soccer. One of their players went down and he needed someone to fill in. So he kept asking my mom, throughout the years of playing soccer, hey, Brady should play football. I was always a bigger kid. He thought I would be good. He saw something in me. So anyways, one of his players goes down. I remember the day he comes to my house, knocks on the door. My mom answers the door. It's like, this is the last time I'm going to ask you. A player went down. Can Brady just come try, football? He had the equipment in his hand. He had a helmet, pads, and everything. He's like, I'll leave this with you. Just think about it, but we have a practice tomorrow at this time. So my mom asked me, he's like, this guy, his name's Ron Scorepad. He keeps asking, he wants you to play football. I'm going to leave it up to you. Do you want to go try? The practice was like 5 minutes from my house, so I was able to walk there the next day. And I was like, yeah, I'll go try. So with my soccer background, they, of course, started me as kicking. I was a kicker and then did some receiver. But, yeah, I ended up playing that football season midway through, joined, and I fell in love. And then I kind of had to make a decision, okay, do I continue with soccer? I didn't know how far I would make it in soccer, especially, being in Canada. So I had to make a decision, and I guess looking back at it now, I made the right decision and started, playing with the North Winnipeg Nomads, and the rest, I guess, is history.
So I picture you coming out of the offensive huddle and then you burst into the line of scrimmage and running over people. That I'm trying to transfer that now to the soccer pitch. What were you like as a soccer player? Because that kind of skill of just plowing into people doesn't necessarily work in soccer.
Totally. And that was just me. Like, that's my natural gift, I would say. I think, as my football career growing up with the Nomads and at Oak Park and at North Dakota and now pro playing with the Bombers, that's just my game, right? It's just running into people and trying to, be the most physical that I can. And that was the same thing in soccer. I was, I played striker. I was a forward. I loved scoring goals. And, the midfielder would send me the ball, and I'm sprinting for the ball, and if someone's in my way, they might catch a shoulder. And could you always do that? Not necessarily, but I think that's where Ron Scorpat saw that. He's like, he's a physical kid, and as I was always a bigger kid, I think he'll be good at this football game. So thank you, Ron.
Yeah, there you go. So we don't talk too much usually about someone's high school career, but given the history with Oak Park and obviously from being from Winnipeg, how did you get it from junior high into high school, and then you morphed into probably one of the best high school players of all time? These crazy records, 2,200 yards, 370 yards in the game. Take us through your high school time, and when did you start to realize I could be onto something here from a career standpoint?
Yeah, it was the whole high school journey was crazy. I grew up in Garden City here in Winnipeg, and I went to Garden City for grade 9, and I was still playing club football at the time with the Nomads. And then, as it got more serious for me, I was like, okay, this is something that I really want to pursue. I want to, earn a scholarship and go play somewhere, at the highest level that I can. So I wanted to make sure I was going to play high school football and getting, the best possible coaching and playing against the best competition. And that's when I decided to make that move to Oak Park in grade 10. I couldn't go in grade 9 because they were French immersion at the time. So I went there in grade 10, and best decision that I made personally, it was, the coaching that they had and obviously the list of players that they've had come out of that program. A guy that I remember obviously, and, one of my best friends, and, he's in the huddle with me every day is Demsky, right? And I remember going there in grade 9 and watching them play. They were playing against Sisler at Oak Park. I was like, who is this guy? And then I actually ended up getting to meet Demsky after the game. I went down to their locker room, and they introduced me to Nick. And now it's full circle. I'm like, this is crazy. One of my best friends, and we're playing on the same team together. But that whole Oak Park experience was awesome. My high school journey was a little bit different. I obviously grade 10 at Oak Park, and then in grade 11 is when I left Oak Park and went to a prep school called Canada Prep Football Academy. It was located in St. Catharines, Ontario. And the reason why I made that decision was, my goals and aspirations were to earn a full ride, Division I scholarship. And in my mind, I believe that me playing against their guys, American high schools, is going to get me the best shot at earning a scholarship. So I went to this prep school and played against a full U.S. schedule for my junior year, and then was gaining lots of interest from lots of NCAA schools, and decided to come back for my senior year. And it's probably the most fun I've ever had. We beat St. Paul's here at IG Field actually in the finals, and the Oak Park, it was awesome. It was fun.
The year you had the 2,200 yards and 370 in a game, 6 touchdowns. Was that your finals?
What was it? 370.
370. I mean, that's.
I mean, is that on a billion carries, or is it just 100?
I think I was just ripping them off.
So I guess at that point, is it a men against boys there? Is it in looking back on it? And I know you're.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, so this is what I preach to kids nowadays, and this is. Now looking back at it, the reason why I was able to get ahead and be so dominant in high school is because I was working out. I was lifting at a young age. Yeah. During high school, ever since, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, I was in the weight room and I was lifting, and I really took that serious. And I think that really just, I was bigger, faster, stronger than everyone because of that. Yeah. And I think that's why I was so dominant in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to Canada Prep and then came back for your last season.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I came back.
And then when you went to North Dakota, what kind of offers did you have? Were you looking at other options too, Brady?
Yeah, so that was my only, offer on the table from a Division I school. My thing was, if I don't get a full ride scholarship, I'm gonna have to stay in Canada. My mom, there's no way she'd be able to afford to send me to, a school. What's crazy, my scholarship at UND was about $35,000 US a year.
Holy shit.
And I was there for 4 years. So I left there with no school debt, left there with a degree. It's a blessing. But so when I was going through this whole recruiting process, as you get to those levels, they can offer you either a full scholarship, a half scholarship, or a quarter, right? And I'm like, if I get offered a quarter, even 50, there's no way that we can make it work. So that was a driving factor for sure for me, making sure I earned that full ride scholarship. But I had lots of interests, lots of other schools wanted to see me in a camp. But for me, growing up, it was like, Ohio was a school that was very interested. Actually, they ended up signing, they offered Malik Irons, who came out my draft class here. So it was between him and I that they were very interested in. And they wanted me to come down for a camp. And even Wyoming, there's so many schools. But for me, it was, how do I get there? Grew up, financially it was a struggle. It's like, I can't get there, right? That was the biggest knock growing up was, maybe lacking some opportunities financially. But at the end of the day, it all worked out. I mean, being at North Dakota was like a dream come true. And I say it's like the same thing playing for the Bombers. Being at UND, I had friends and family at every single game. I mean, it's like 2.5 hours away from Winnipeg. And now being here, I have people are always here watching the play.
So maybe talk about your time there and throughout the 4 years in terms of, how things changed for you, how you grew. Must have been some funny shit too that happened.
It was
playing football in a town like that.
It was wild. I mean, obviously, if anyone that's most, especially Winnipeggers, have probably been to Grand Forks. It's very close, and without that school, without that in North Dakota, there's nothing there. There's nothing in Grand Forks. The University of North Dakota makes Grand Forks, and that's what makes it so fun, especially being an athlete and playing for that town. Bomber fans kind of, they can relate to the North Dakota people. They're diehard fans. We have diehard fans here, and they have diehard fans at UND, which is amazing. So that whole experience, I mean, playing in a college town like that, you wake up and it's Saturday and it's college football on Saturdays down in the States, and it was wild. The best, probably, I got so many stories from college, but it was
Let's hear 'em.
one of the best experiences ever was, going down there and actually living that college experience, having that dorm life. Obviously, me being from Canada, there's lots of people that, play at Manitoba or whatever schools in Canada, but they don't live on residence. They don't live in the dorms. They live at home, so they don't get to experience that college experience. And it was nuts. First 3 days, sororities, fraternities, all the nuts. It was awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna be looking for new jobs if you go any further. So it's,
we'll keep it PG.
That's what I lived in res when I came to U of M here, and
you got any stories, Eddie?
And I'll tell you what, if they had cell phones back in the day, I would still be in prison probably.
Wow, might have to cut that out.
No, it was wild. So Brady, when you're piling up really good numbers at UND too. And then I remember in your draft year that I think some guys from here drove down to see you. I'm sure that the Bombers scouted you pretty heavily. How did you, it's first of all, everybody says the same thing. You're just excited to get drafted by anybody. But these guys had a lot of interest in you. And did you know that was growing? And then they interview you at how did you know that you were big time on the Bombers' radar screen?
Yeah, so I'd probably say it was, I think they even came early on, actually, like my sophomore year. Like, usually they're not looking at guys that early, especially at an FCS school. They know guys aren't coming out to their senior year, so why look at them in their sophomore year? That's, quite early. But, they must have known, and that maybe saw potential in me, which is amazing. And so I kind of heard some chatter behind the doors. Winnipeg's coming down to this game, or the Bomber scouts are at this game watching, and it kind of happened every year, sophomore year, junior year, and then senior year, they came down quite a bit, and I was like, this is like crazy, like and I think, which is wild because I had this talk with Andrew back like when I was in high school. Like he was like, I think he was just new with the Bombers, or I think he knew he was about to sign with the Bombers. And he's just like, yeah, you're gonna, kind of, take over. Watch, like I'm gonna call it. Like you're gonna come in here, and it's gonna, I'm gonna leave, and you're gonna take over. And that's exactly what happened. And he literally called it. I'm like, that's freaky. At the time, I'm like,
Yeah. The funny thing about that is Andrew had the same kind of run-in with Charles Roberts.
He did. When
and now they didn't necessarily cross paths in terms of playing here, but yeah, Andrew said the same thing to Charles Roberts. Not surprisingly, at the Palomino. But
of course.
Yeah. So you come in behind him, and it's your first year. What's the transition like? I know that obviously you got hurt pretty early, and that kind of put a damper
Home
on
opener,
everything.
right?
But
Yeah, we played week 1 in BC, so
Yeah.
I got to play that game. And then week 2 we were on a bye.
yeah, week 3 it was week
and then
3.
we had
Yeah.
week 3, and it was a home opener.
Yeah.
And obviously it was exciting for me. I think that week I had like 35 tickets from guys in the locker room. I had so many people at the game. And first play I go in on, I go down. And it was unfortunate, but I think now looking back at it, then to now, I think I've grown a lot. I've matured. I feel like I'm a different person from when I first got here to who I am now. I think I've learned how to be a pro, which, you hear guys preach all the time. Like,
Whoa, you're stealing my fucking questions here, buddy.
that was,
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, keep going. Yeah,
I'm good at this.
Yeah.
But that's real. People are always say, like, learn to be a pro, and it's like until you actually go through, the ebbs and flows of it, you don't really know what that is, right? And I think, looking back at it, and with Andrew here, and me getting hurt, and everyone has, is egotistic in their own way. I mean, I think especially being a skilled person, you expect to be the best at your position, and when you step on the field, you're going to be the best. And when you get injured and you're not contributing, and you have an organization that believed in you, they wanted you to come in, and they had high expectations for myself. I mean, I was told by some of the, Osh and Lapo at the time, and what they expected of me. And when you get hurt and now you can't contribute, and then you're watching guys at your position, and Andrew knew. I mean, he knew. I'm a younger dude, and I'm hungry. I'm ready to take his spot. And when you get hurt and now you're on the back burner, it's like you got to start back from square one. So, but no, I think that was good though. Looking back, I really was able to grow and mature, and yeah, I'm a different Brady from my rookie year to now.
Yeah,
Been
you
cool
sure
to
are,
watch.
man.
It's been cool to watch.
It has
man.
been cool
like
to watch. Yeah.
Totally.
You and I have had a lot of conversations over the years about
lots
this.
of combos.
And you have grown a lot, but that's a testament not only to your teammates but also to you, right? I mean, you mature, but you also had to grasp that you needed to continue to do that, which you did.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and then 2020 we missed the season. 2021, I think probably helped from a mental standpoint as well, because you got to actually get some playing time in, right? Andrew was going through the injuries, and you not only got some playing time, but got to maybe not prove to yourself, but you knew you could do it at this level at that point.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, getting just some game experience under my belt. And I think that season, what was so nice about it is that I didn't really have any pressure on me.
Yeah.
Knowing that, Andrew was still there, he was, ups and downs, battling injuries. Okay. What was hard about it is that I had to stay ready all week, knowing that, okay, I could be playing,
Yeah.
I could be starting, I could not be starting. So that was tough. But what was nice is that there was no pressure, knowing that, I can go out there and play freely. If I make some mistakes, like, of course you want to try and, be the best you can and be perfect. But I think as a young guy, the more games you stack under your belt, the better you get with experience. And I was still young. I mean, I was still, only a couple games ever played.
Yeah.
But it was just nice knowing that, okay, I'm at this moment, at this very present time, I'm not their guy right now.
Yeah.
Their guy is 33, and I'm just here to, fill in for him, because I know for however long he's here, that's the guy.
Yeah.
So that was nice about that. Just being able to play freely, because I probably know what your next question is going to be, because that was a freaking shit show.
Which part?
My first year starting.
Last year,
Last
you're pretty
year.
open about
Oh,
this.
man.
Well, what's funny?
So it was nice. I had no pressure when Andrew's here.
Yeah.
The moment he's gone, just
What's interesting is in the off season going into last year, when there was a lot of, we were kind of figuring out what we were going to do at that position in terms of if was Andrew going to play another year here, and the thinking was, I think publicly, that you wouldn't have wanted that. And then you and I talked about it, and you said, absolutely. If he's here for another year, fuck, I'll play another year behind him, and I'll keep learning. And then that didn't happen, and then it was like, holy shit, I'm the guy now. But what do you mean? What are you talking about?
it was. So I remember us having that conversation in the off season, and that was wild. I remember I remember talking to Ed. I was in Mexico on the beach when we had a conversation about, me resigning. Yeah, I think with me still being young in my career, and like I said, with experiences under your belt, having more games, the better you get. And I was still young in my career, and was I ready to take that next step? Of course. Everyone wants that opportunity, but like we had that conversation, Darren. I was totally, they might have not thought I would come back. I had other offers on the table from other teams,
Yep.
and actually one of them, Toronto was. And it's crazy now looking at it. Toronto wanted me, like threw me more money than what Winnipeg's paying me right now. They were trying to get me, and then when I turned that down is when they offered Andrew and took Andrew, which is crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I would have came back still if Andrew was here. And my thing was, why not try and get us both involved?
Yeah.
Like, why not try to get us both in the field? But in the back of my mind, I kind of knew, for however long Andrew's going to be here, I'm probably not going to get on the field.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's going to go. I mean, and he's proven himself, and, he's going to go down as one of the greatest to ever play at that position. So, of course, I respected that. But at the same time, I was like, why not try to get us both in the field? Because I knew my potential, and I've shown my potential. I'm like, I can help this team win football games, right? And then the way it worked out, I mean, it was like, man, now I guess it's my time now, right?
Yeah.
The beginning of last year, Brady, you've been pretty open about this. It was tough, right? The taking over from Andrew, you're in that shadow, and the numbers weren't there at the beginning, and you were reading probably too much social media, and it got in your head maybe a little bit, but you had to fight through that too, right? I mean, people always think, well, you got all these physical gifts and you can run around and through people and catch the ball and all that kind of stuff, block, but there's another part of it too, right? And you talked about how you've grown. Maybe talk about growing through that and understanding about how to shelve that shit and
yeah,
play.
Totally. And I've been through lots in my life, lots of adversity, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, even harder than an injury. Like that injury I had back in 19 where I snapped my ankle, like going through facing all the critics and hearing all the noise was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. And I think, I have quite the presence on social media, so I use it quite actively. So it's just right in front of your face to read. It's hard for me to, and it was hard for me to try to avoid it because it's right there. And once it's there, what are you going to do? You're going to look at it and probably read it.
Right.
And just this is the greatest game in the world, and the highs are so good. Like the highs are amazing, but the lows are so low, and people that haven't experienced it don't really know, and it sucked. Like there was lots of dark days. I go home and it's like, man, like you start just to doubt yourself in everything now. It's like, can I really do this? Am I meant to do this? Yeah. Am I done? Like, should I just stop? Like nothing was working.
Yeah.
And then I continue just to, work and keep my head down and continue to push through. And obviously the guys in this locker room is what really made me continue to work, and I remember having so many good conversations with Wally and Sheed and Dembski and Zach, like the list goes on. My coaches, like Coach Jay was a big person in my corner that year.
Jason Hogan?
Yeah. Coach Jason was, if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I would have got through that season, and through those hard times he was really there to support me and have those uncomfortable conversations, and yeah, we got through it, man. But it was tough. I mean, the media, man, when you're good they love you, when you're shit they'll shit on you.
I remember coming off the field with you in Calgary last summer.
Oh yeah.
And we had won. It was a tight game, and you had played really well, and I think it was you kind of broken through the door at that point, and you said something maybe coming off the field, something about, I really needed this. And that's kind of how everything started rolling, right? I mean, that game set the tone for the rest of your season.
I remember that too. I'm like picturing it in my head, like running over to you, and I think I had some media obligations as we were chatting, and I was like, man, like I needed that game. And looking back at that year, I was talking to Ed about this, I think this year, but that Calgary game was like the worst game of my career, like ever. Like whatever the numbers were, I think I had like 9 total rushing yards or something. I'm like, this is insane. like I'm supposed to be this power back that's supposed to be falling forward on every single run, at least getting 4 or 5 yards. But I got 9 yards this entire game, and I'm like, that was a game. I'm like, man, like, can I I didn't know if I could, like, I remember going home and, like, literally crying, man. Like, be totally vulnerable here right now. But I was like, fuck, can I do this anymore? Like, I don't know if I can. And on the sidelines, Coach Bergs came up to me, and that was my running back coach when I first got here. So he knows me quite well because he's known me for the longest. And I remember him saying to me, like, just be you. Like, just, I know what you can do. Like, just stay to who you are. And that next game was Edmonton. And, you know, you started to see, you know, Brady running, you know, strong and getting north and running aggressive. And then that following game, you know, playing in Calgary at Calgary, I think was my breakthrough game that I really needed. I needed that for my confidence, my morale, to show my teammates that, hey, like that's him. Like, that's a guy that we want in our team, and we know what he can do. And then ever since then, I mean, it was, obviously lots of hard work, but I'm glad the way it went.
The week before that, the game in Edmonton, everybody talks about the running into Ed Gainey. That's the kind of play that can show up on film, and I'm sure after the game, guys are watching it and going, "Whoa!" Or like, and maybe that's kind of a boost too, right? Because that's you plowing into a guy, putting your helmet into a guy's chest and driving him backwards.
Totally.
That had to be like, all right, that starts the momentum, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing greater than, you know, making your teammates proud. I mean, in my eyes especially. I mean, if I can go out there and even just throwing a good block and just laying my body in the line and knowing that my teammates appreciate that, and then they see that and like, man, like, that dude's tough. Like, he's going to lay his body in the line. That's what I love. And knowing that my teammates can rely on that, you know, every single week. Of course, you know, people can do that, you know, a week here, another week, but can you do that consistently and, like, show your teammates that you're willing to do that? And it just took some time for me to show them that. But I think, you know, once we started rolling, now they're like, oh, like, this guy is serious, and, you know, he's a tough dude. And I think when this game is done for me, whether that's in, you know, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, I want to be known that, you know, that dude was tough. Like, he ran tough. He played through shit. Like, that dude was tough. Like, it was hard to get him off the field and hard to get him to miss games because he was just a tough, you know, tough dude.
The whole playing for your teammates thing's interesting because, and I'm not saying you didn't necessarily feel this way before, like 2-3 years ago, but I don't know that those words would have come out of your mouth 2 or 3 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
You just think differently now.
Totally. And that's the whole thing about growing and learning how to be a pro and really buying in. You know, that whole FIFO term, I think when I first got here, I'm like, okay, like,
sure,
it's FIFA, like, fit in or fuck off. Okay. Like, be with the boys, be about the boys. But then as you really experience it and grow, like I said, the ebbs and flows of the whole year that goes on, you don't really know what it is until you go through it. Yeah. And totally now it's like, and that's what I try to preach to the young guys is you got to buy in and show your teammates that you're really about this. Like, you're going to go out there and lay your body in the line, and whatever your role is, just do it. And because I think, you know, looking back at my journey, the way it went, obviously with that injury was a challenge for me. And I think it was like, okay, we're going to test you, like, because facing an injury like that isn't easy. You know, getting surgery like that and being done all year, isn't tough at all. It isn't hard at all, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Isn't easy.
Isn't easy.
Yeah, there you go.
Isn't easy.
It's hard to say that, but it's not.
Isn't easy. But yeah, the way the whole my career's gone so far, for sure. Yeah. I wouldn't have probably said that a couple years ago, but now it's I've grown a lot, man.
Yeah, you sure have, buddy.
One of the things that you touched on, Brady, and we talked about this during Grey Cup week last year, and I'm just looking at the story again, and it's underlying, and everything you're saying is about running hungry. And can you talk about that again too? Because it's a part of who you are growing up, right? And you told that story about really understanding what being hungry is, metaphorically and all that stuff too, right? Can you tell that story again? Yeah,
and I think you know, that's my whole childhood has kind of shaped me around the man that I am today. You know, the shit that I had to go through. I mean, growing up, and like you said, that story you wrote, by the way, was amazing. Like, so many people messaged me, I remember that week, and were like, man, like, this is so well written, and you did a good job, Ed.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, just wanna let you know, you did a great job.
It takes a lot of editing to fucking clean those things up, you know?
I was waiting the slap across the back of the head from over here. Okay.
But no, in all seriousness, my Yeah, I mean, the way I grew up, I mean, look, I like to share my story and the way I grew up, because you never know, who will hear it, and it might, touch a heart here and there, and might get someone to change or whatever the case may be. But, growing up in a household with, addiction, and someone, heavily addicted to drugs, it's challenging. There's lots of shit that as a kid that you have to go through and witness and see and hear, and shit that kids should never have to go through. But I think I turned a negative into a positive. And I think my siblings and I did a great job, staying tight knit together throughout this whole struggles that we faced growing up, like our whole life, and use sport to kind of, empower that. And to get us to, okay, we don't want our life to be like this. Let's change the narrative here, and let's use this as fuel and hunger. And that's, going back to, that hunger feeling that I talk about, and kind of, relaying it back to, some days opening the fridge and there's no food in there, and literally being like, I was hungry, you know what I mean? And using all these things to, this is not how I want my life to be. This is not how I want my future family's life to be. I want it to change. So ever since then, I mean, even now, I've been extremely blessed, with obviously this football career, and this being my financial stability in my life, and then also being an influencer online and having a manager for that, and that's a full-time gig and a full-time salary. So very blessed now financially, which is amazing, but I still always want to look back on what I had to go through in order to get where I am today, and continue to not get complacent, and to always be hungry, and always to try to, strive to be better, because that's what I did growing up, and look to where it got me now. So I want to just keep on going, because I know the ceiling for me is, the sky's the limit for me. For Brady Oliveira, I can keep going, and I know I can do lots of great things in this world, whether that's in football or lots of the charity work that I do with kids, or the dog rescue stuff I do, or online with my social media business. The sky's the limit, so I just want to always stay hungry and keep going.
Let's move away from football. We got a few more minutes with you here, buddy. So the dog rescuing thing is obviously you said you do a lot of stuff, and we just probably don't have time to cover it all. But the dog rescue stuff is touches a lot of people, obviously. Maybe how did you get into all this stuff, and like, how the fuck do you do it? Honestly, I mean, how many messages I send you, but seeing those videos is just disgraceful stuff, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's so how I got into it was my buddy Ryan Clausen, one of my best friends. He's been doing this rescue work for now probably like 10 years, and he put in our group chat a couple years ago, if anyone wanted to come up for a drive with him. All these communities we go to are quite far, a couple hour drive. So he was more so looking for some company. So I've always been intrigued in the work that he was doing, because I saw on his Instagram. So I messaged him right away. Actually, I think I called him right away. I'm like, hey, I'll come with you for sure. I've always wanted to come check it out. So he's like, okay, if you want to. I went in totally blind, not knowing what to expect, even being from here.
Yeah.
And most people that are from Winnipeg and from this province of Manitoba still don't know what's going on.
For sure, yeah.
Just like I was in the dark and I had no idea. I go to this community, and I'm like, holy shit, this is what goes on? Like, I had no idea. So
tell us what goes on. What do you?
So it's just, stray dogs, people, the community's not mandating spay and neuters, the neglect, the abuse that these animals are facing, cats, dogs, whatever it is. Like the shit that I have to see on the regular going up there is insane.
I cut you off there. So you go up with him. And
So once I went there, and knowing how bad it was, and for example, I didn't know that this was going on. I'm like, well, now more people need to be in the light. Like, this needs to be in the light, and people need to know what's going on. So this is how kind of my passion for social media began, because with social media, you can reach so many eyes, and it's unbelievable. I've posted some videos that have gotten like millions of views, and I'm like, this is insane. Just from me creating a video and posting it, now more eyes are on this topic, and we can just raise more awareness. So that's what I've been doing ever since going on these animal rescue missions, is showing people, hey, this is what's going on. This is ways you can help. And just, putting light to it, because I think more people need to know what's going on. And I think they're, I can go on and on about this topic, but I think especially in Manitoba, everywhere I travel now, there's this issue, but especially in Manitoba, there needs to be more mandates and bylaws in these communities to protect these animals, because right now, and I always say I love being a voice for the voiceless, and these animals are helpless and they have no one helping them. And it fucking pisses me off because I go up there and you constantly see dogs, skin and bones, dogs, for example, in the summertime, covered in ticks, no fresh food or water outside, chained up, covered in mange, just it's sickening, and it's disgusting that, these human beings are treating these animals like this up there, and there's no consequences for them. It's just, it really, really bothers me. It really does bother me.
Yeah.
Well, so I saw some of your latest posts from your latest trip, and it is sad, and it's disgusting, and it's depressing in a way. So where's the joy come for you on this? Is it just the seeing an animal be recovered and saved? Maybe I'm connecting some easy dots here, but what's the joy?
Yeah, I think going up all the time and seeing shitty situations over and over and over again. But what makes you going back all the time is the ones that you can save. I mean, you're never going to save them all because there's way too many, unless people started just mandating spay and neuter. And people just fix your pets. If everyone just spay and neutered their animals, this wouldn't be an issue, because I'm constantly going into these communities or in different parts of the world trying to make an impact. And you take one dog, but then there's another mom in the street that's not spayed, and now they have puppies, and now it's like, okay, well, I took some in, and now it's just
starting over again.
I'm starting over again.
Right.
So, but what makes me keep going, rescue after rescue is, getting the ones and bringing them in and transforming them, and then when I get pictures or videos from people being like, oh my God, like you rescued my dog, like I adopted this dog in BC and it's now thriving, like here's some pictures, and it was a dog that was just like, oh my gosh, lived this shitty life, and now it's living the life, like the most amazing life. So I think that's what makes it worth it. I was just in a community a couple days ago on our off day, and we rescued 50 animals, 23 dogs and 27 cats. And one of the dogs that we got, so kind of relating back to why I do this, 2 months prior to that, so before the season started, I went up to this community on a wellness check. I went to deliver, dog food, cat food to the community, dewormed puppies, gave medication for tick season coming up, and just putting out fresh water, just checking on the animals there. We were on an intake freeze here. Our fosters were too full, so we couldn't bring any more dogs in. But I'm like, okay, well, we can still go check on dogs and help them out, even though we can't bring them in. Came across this one puppy that was, quite skinny. It was early signs of mange. Just was being neglected, and we were like, okay, well, maybe we can have room for one puppy. We can just bring one puppy in and we'll find a foster. Well, the owner at the time was not having it. It's a beautiful, like, Cane Corso mixed puppy. Of course they want this puppy right now because it's a puppy. But what people don't understand over there is that, well, puppies don't always stay puppies. They get big, and you have a Cane Corso that's going to get very big. So fast forward it, they didn't want to, surrender the dog to us, even though it was being neglected. That's when people need to step in, and they shouldn't be having dogs. But anyways, we go back a couple days ago, and we go to this same house because they've contacted us to, hey, we have a dog in our property that we don't want. We go to the house, and I'm like, oh, this is that house. I guarantee you it's that same dog. We go there. This dog comes crawling under from the deck, has no life in it, skinny, couldn't even... And I posted the video about it. It couldn't even get on all fours. Like, it had no life. And we were able to take the dog back with us. And yeah, she's doing amazing right now. She's in her foster home. And yeah, she's like a totally different dog. And it's only been probably 3 days now. So it's pretty. That's why I do it. So for reasons reasons like that.
And you don't just do this here. So you were away last winter in Bali. Is that how you say it?
Bali.
Yeah. So what was going on there? You were filming something? Are we even allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, right.
Yeah, of course. Because if people want to watch, there's season 1 is on YouTube. I was filming a mini series called Running Back to the Rescue with the Dodo. The Dodo is an animal welfare group. They're massive on social media. They got millions and millions of followers across all their platforms, and they post animal rescue videos. So we're creating, my girlfriend and I, Alex, we're creating a mini series called Running Back to the Rescue. We filmed season 1 in Cabo in Mexico 2 years ago. So that season 1 is out on YouTube, and we're filming season 2 in Bali. But yeah, my passion and Alex's passion as well for traveling, and obviously with, the luxury of playing in the CFL, you work for 6 months and you have 6 months off. Obviously you got to make sure you're staying in shape and training, but in my eyes, I can do that anywhere in the world.
Sure.
I can go find, nice gyms. And in Bali, I actually found the nicest gym that I've ever trained at in my entire life. So it worked out perfect. So I was able to, get my workouts in every day, rescue dogs, street dogs every day. It was great. But my passion of traveling and then also doing rescue work works out great because, like I said, it seems to be everywhere I go in the world, there's an issue. So what we do is we just, with social media, I'll just reach out to rescues in certain areas of the world that I want to go to, and team up with them, and they'll kind of, alert me where the hot spots are, and I'm able to, and we also raise money for this. We started GoFundMe's, and I think for the Mexico rescue mission, we raised $15,000, and for Bali, we raised $12,000. So the people are amazing. The support that, we get through social media, they're awesome, man. Like, they love the work that we do.
And you're going back, are you not, this winter?
I got a few trips planned. So actually, I'm going to Turks and Caicos in December, rescue related.
Okay.
It's crazy. Like, these people want me to come do this work there, and I'm like, they think I'm some sort of like higher up person. I'm like, I'm just a normal dude. Regardless of my, public figure status of being a pro athlete, I'm still a human being that just wants to give back, and I'm passionate about rescue. But this hotel wants to put us up in this very nice resort for like a week and help out with their local shelters in Turks and Caicos. So we're going to do that after the season in December. And then we're going to go back to Bali. We might spend Christmas there or go right after Christmas and be there for probably 3 weeks, do some rescue work there, and then go do Thailand for 2 months and film season 3 of Running Back to the Rescue in Thailand. So,
wow. Where do you know where yet or no?
We don't know where yet, but I've heard lots of, you were just there.
Yeah.
But what's the nice spot in Thailand? Phuket?
Sure. Yeah. Koh
Right?
Samui. Yeah.
So we'll see where I go, but
there's beautiful down there.
I love that part of the world. Southeast Asia was great, and it's sad, but their dog issue out there is crazy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, anything else, Eddie?
No, I'm good. Hey, before we go, I should again thank PlayNow.com for jumping in as a title sponsor for this. So appreciate Brady for coming in and telling
buddy,
us
thanks
this
very
awesome
much,
story.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Thanks as always to Darren Cameron. That's the latest episode of Handled Internally on BlueBombers.com.
3, 2, 1.